into the sky. Never let adventures pass you by. Be free and follow your crazy dreams. We're living our vision in the RV. Come ride with us and you'll be free.
Last week, after leaving the Erie Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, we decided to stop downtown to quickly see a few historical markers and monuments before heading for Chicago. The first is a monument of Abraham Lincoln's first official endorsement for president. He never set foot in this town, and yet, in a small but significant way, his whole presidential career, and hence his epic legend, hinged on Mansfield, Ohio. The second was a monument about Johnny Appleseed. And just down the street is the first new hand-carved carousel that was built and operated in the United States since the 1930s. Well, good morning. Everybody say happy birthday to Michelle. Happy birthday! Michelle and I took the day off today. We're in downtown Chicago, camping at probably our least favorite place we've ever camped out. There's a parking lot full of a bunch of semis, a few RVs. They're kind of scattered throughout. Apparently in downtown Chicago, this is kind of a popular place to park so that you're close to downtown, so you don't have to go to some of the outside campgrounds and drive and through all the traffic and everything back and forth. Yeah. So it's a nice place that you can kind of, well, I shouldn't say nice place. Let me back up here a little bit. It's a place that you can
it's not a nice place.
Stay, no hookups whatsoever, $38 a day. It's called McCormick's Place, and it's they have a Lot A, Lot B, and Lot C. Lot B is the one that you want. You can do multiple nights here, but $38. There's cameras, it's highly secured. Here's the security office. Here's the front entrance right there. There is an entrance down here. That's where we stayed the first night. And then we moved up here because there wasn't hardly anybody down there. We wanted to be next to other people.
It is noisy because of the semis coming in and out during the day and stuff. Not so much at night, but it's doable if you want a secure place really close to downtown.
We parked up here because it's right next to the security office, and they got cameras right up here, so we felt a little bit more secure. All right, well, you want to tell everybody what you decided you wanted to do today for your birthday?
Well, the Cubs are playing.
We've been to the Navy Pier and the Miracle Mile, the aquarium. We've done that before. We're just doing something a little different. That's what Michelle wanted to do.
If we get down there in time.
Yes. All right, we got to get going. That was my cue.
Yeah.
We decided to take Uber and leave the van to avoid the stress of driving through all the traffic, finding a parking spot near Wrigley Field, as well as paying anywhere from $18 to $35 for parking. Uber charged us $24.95 and we tipped her $5, so roughly around $30. After the game, it's best to wait 30 minutes or so and the rate will drop. Once the crowd and demand starts to diminish, the price will drop, so keep checking until you see the rate drop. It went from $60 to $30 for our return trip back. Cub Stadium. What's Michelle want first for her birthday?
Coffee and donuts. Free donuts, sir.
Oh my. Gluten-free donuts, I've never. Oh. Field is right over here. Those donuts were very good. The gluten-free didn't even taste gluten-free.
I think I would just get that even.
Do right donuts and they do them right.
Yeah. across from Wrigley.
It was highly suggested and to go there from our Uber driver that's lived here for a long time. So here we are.
And she said
Oh.
because it's Do Right Donuts and chicken,
Oh,
that
the
they have a
chicken.
really good chicken sandwich.
That's right. She said their chicken sandwich was the best she's ever had. She said very good. And here we are, Wrigley Field.
Life's too short to get it all right. First time around, you better not mess up.
Pie Girl goes to Wrigley Field.
Want it all again. I want a second chance, 'cause this time around.
We're going to do a tour of Wrigley Field. It was $69. It's supposed to be a 90-minute tour.
$30 or 30 tickets each plus tax. I just said 30 tickets each.
I know. I was waiting to
Okay.
see if you caught that. I told him how much it was already.
Okay.
So we can just edit that out.
Cut.
You will be going through a metal detector on the way in. You don't need to take anything out of your pockets. Just go on through. If it beeps, security might ask you to just
Yeah, there you go. That's good. That's okay. We love the hawk.
I know, right?
If you want to use a restroom right now, or if you feel like you might need to use one over the next hour or so, this is your opportunity. This is a self-guided portion of the tour.
This is the row we're actually going to be sitting in, and our seats are right over there. Michelle's been here a long time ago with her family.
Over 20 years. We took my mom and dad here for their anniversary, and because they're huge Cubs fans.
And the game lasted 16
16 innings. Yes, I can remember well. Me and my nieces were in the bleachers going, I don't care if they even lose, just end it already.
But this is my first time to this field, so I feel like it's my birthday.
Yeah, it's a good day.
There's something kind of magical about a baseball park, isn't there? There's some feeling you get that's different than when you walk into a basketball arena or when you walk into a football stadium. You know, every single baseball park is different. That's because there's really not a lot of rules about how to build a baseball park. Outside of the infield is 90 feet to each base, 60 feet 6 inches from the pitcher's mound to home plate. But beyond that, you can put your wall as far away as you want it. And you can build the wall as high as you want it. And you can put as much room in foul territory as you want. So every single ballpark is different and special. History of this ballpark begins back in the year 1913. That was a time when we had 3 professional baseball teams playing here in the city of Chicago. We had the Cubs. Cubs are one of the oldest teams in North America, established back in 1876. However, at that time, the Cubs didn't play on the north side of town like they do right now. They played out on the west side of town. They played at a ballpark that was very accurately named, the West Side Grounds. So they're playing out on the west side. We got the White Sox playing on the south side, where they've always been since 1901. But then we had a third baseball team. And that team was called the Chicago Federals. Are there any diehard Federals fans on the tour today? No. Okay. Makes sense.
There is so much more history to this ballpark than what we are about to share. So if you ever get the chance, we highly recommend taking the tour of Wrigley Field. We thought it was well worth the money, and we learned so much history. Not a Cubs fan, you say? That's okay. In our group today, we have Dodger fans, Cardinal fans, Royals fans, and Pirate fans in attendance. Why? Because these are true baseball fans that have a love for baseball and want to know more about baseball history. At the turn of the 20th century, the block bounded by Clark, Addison, Waveland, and Sheffield streets was home to the Chicago Lutheran Theological Seminary, with the Hildebrandt coal factory across the street to the west. At the time the seminary was established, the area was located in a quiet, relatively undeveloped section of the Lakeview district of Chicago's north side. By 1899, 4 homes were built for professors from the northwest corner of Waveland and Stella, stretching south along Stella.
First things first, take a look at that bench in front of you. You see those numbers?
Yeah.
Meaningless. They don't mean anything. This is general admission out here. It's the largest general admission section in all of sports. So what that means is that fans will line up outside the ballpark hours before the game if they've got bleacher tickets to try and get in and get the best seats possible out here. 2 best spots to sit in the bleachers. Front row. So you got the best chance at catching a home run ball. You might even get to have a conversation with an outfielder. But don't sleep on the back row. It's the only place with back support in the entire section. When other teams or journalists from other cities, when they'd come out to Wrigley Field, and they would look up into the bleachers in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, they would say, who are these people? Don't they have anywhere to be right now? Don't any of them have jobs?
The seminary had ambitious plans for expansion. However, it was attempting to flourish in the context of a changing community. As early as 1905, rumors had been swirling that the Minor League American Association was seeking to locate a franchise in Chicago. Charles Havener, owner of the AA Milwaukee Brewers, and brothers Joe Cantillon, manager of the Washington Senators, and Mike Cantillon, owner of the AA Minneapolis Millers, saw an opportunity to make profit by snapping up choice property in the event that the AA decided to move into the Chicago market. Havener and the Cantillons looked to the rapidly developing North Side as the best place to situate a team. In 1909, the seminary became eager to move and sold the property to Havener and the Cantillons for $175,000 and relocated to the suburb of Maywood, Illinois, where it remained until 1967.
Cubs versus Indians. One of my friends offered me $5,000 for one of my tickets. He didn't get it.
In 1913, the Federal League began its existence as a minor league, locating franchises in 6 cities, including Chicago. In 1914, it first opened as Wiegand Park for Charles Wiegand's Chicago Whales of the Federal League, and the first major league game at the ballpark took place April 23, 1914, with the Federals defeating Kansas City 9-1. The first home run in ballpark history was hit by Federals catcher Art Wilson, a 2-run shot in the second inning off Kansas City's George Chief Johnson. In 1915, Charles Wiegand purchased the Cubs franchise for $500,000 and promptly moved his new club out of the dilapidated West Side Park and into his Wiegand Park for the 1916 season, which in reality was a merger between the Whales and the Cubs. The first National League game at the ballpark was played April 20th, 1916, when the Cubs beat the Cincinnati Reds 7-6 in 11 innings. A Bear Cub was even in attendance at the game. Although Wiegand was clearly the most dominant figure in the revamped Cubs organization in 1916, a number of investors had taken up minority shares in the club. One of the new investors was chewing gum magnate William Wrigley. Over the next couple years, as Wiegand's financial fortunes off the field entered a sharp decline, Wrigley acquired an increasing number of shares in the club and took on a growing role in the team's affairs. In November 1918, Wiegand gave up his remaining interest in Wrigley, resigned as president, and left baseball for good. The ballpark became known as Cubs Park in 1920 after the Wrigley family purchased the team from Wiegand. Wrigley would acquire complete control of the Cubs by 1921, and it was named Wrigley Field in 1926 in honor of William Wrigley Jr., the club's owner.
We are at Wrigley Field. There's all these buildings out here. These are all private residences. People live right across the street from Wrigley Field. That's different than most ballparks. Most ballparks are built out on the edge of town. They're surrounded by parking lots or freeways. Not us. We're a part of the neighborhood here. From up here, you also get a great kind of alternate skyline view. This is the uptown skyline, not the downtown skyline of Chicago. You also You can see Lake Michigan peeking out from between those buildings from right here. You know, that's where we get the name of the neighborhood from. This is Lakeview. That's a view of the lake. Makes sense, right? Now let's talk about some of the most iconic features of Wrigley Field while we're up here. Let's start with the rooftop seats. Those seats are not a part of Wrigley Field. We do not own those seats. Those don't count towards our total capacity. Those are totally separate from us. A lot of those buildings out there are older than the ballpark is, and the seats didn't go up until the 80s. So before that, the people that lived in those buildings, they could just climb up their fire escapes during the game. They could set up on the roof, bring a cooler, a grill, invite some friends over, watch the game from up there. Great way to spend an afternoon. It wasn't until the 80s that a few factors all came together that changed the culture of the rooftops. One thing that happened, the Cubs were being broadcast nationally on WGN-TV. Everybody across the country could watch Cubs games. One of very few baseball teams to have there. So we were picking up fans from all over the U.S. Second thing, we got ourselves a very popular and charismatic announcer. His name's Harry Carey. One of Harry Carey's favorite things to do during the broadcast was to point the TV cameras across the street at the people on the rooftops. And he would say, "Hey, look at them! That's the best way to watch a baseball game. They didn't even have to pay for a ticket out there." So, everybody across the country is learning how to watch Cubs games for free. Third thing that happened is the Cubs got good. 1984, Cubs go to the playoffs for the first time since 1945. And everybody that couldn't get into Wrigley to watch the game, they went across the street. The building owners started standing down at the front door, just taking cash from people to let them go up on the roof. Problem there is when you put about 100 people on a rooftop. That's not what the roof is designed to hold. A lot of reports of the roof starting to sag in the middle under the weight of all these people. We have one tour guide here who used to love to go party on the rooftops. But he said he had to stop going up there one day because the building owners said, "Oh yeah, have a good time, go wherever you want. Maybe don't step over there, that's the soft spot." So, City of Chicago shut it down. They said, nobody is allowed on those rooftops anymore. Not unless you reinforce the roof. You put up actual seats. You put up guardrails, you sell tickets. Chicago wanted its tax revenue. It's a major renovation, and the building owners weren't really willing to put up the money for it. However, some of the local bars and restaurants in the area, they smelled an opportunity. Top floor of every single one of these buildings has been bought out by a bar or a restaurant. They converted that top floor into a party room, and then they built the seats on the rooftop. If you want to go watch a game from out there, now you buy a ticket through that bar, you can get up into their party room, and then go up into the bleachers. It's going to cost you somewhere between $100 and $250 for a ticket now. And that might seem kind of expensive, considering the ticket you bought is not even inside of the ballpark. But what you got to understand, it's all inclusive out there. It's all you can eat. It's all you can drink also. They are, oh, that got a little bit of a reaction from over here, yeah.
That was a fantastic tour. Our tour guide was really, really good.
Definitely worth the money. I mean, just the history alone is so interesting, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's a must-do. If you're a Cubs fan, even if you're not.
Well, there was quite a few, let's go walk this way away from. There was quite a few people in our tour that were from all over the country and were not Cubs fans.
Yeah.
Like myself, and I worked a job a long time ago, and I was in the St. Louis area. I did a tour there, and that tour didn't compare to this at all. It was great.
There's a lot of history here.
A lot of history. Had no idea. Wish we could have got it all on camera, but it was just way too much.
It's a beautiful day. We're
glad.
just gonna.
Birthday girl's enjoying it.
Yes, that was definitely the icing on the
icing on her
cupcake.
birthday cake. Huh?
Icing on the donut.
A few fun facts you may not know about Wrigley Field. The scoreboard at Wrigley Field has been around since 1937 and continues to be manually operated by hand. The Chicago Bears of the National Football League played at Wrigley Field from 1921 to 1970 before relocating to Soldier Field. The team had transferred from Decatur and retained the name Staley's for the 1921 season.
This is what happens when you take this girl shopping. She gets birthday gift and a t-shirt, and she makes me get something to make herself feel better for getting things.
You know me too well.
Movies like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Blues Brothers, and The Breakup have all shot scenes at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Did you know that Wrigley Field didn't install lights until 1988? That year, baseball officials announced Wrigley Field would be unable to host any postseason games without lights, so they were quickly added to avoid that issue. Lights were supposed to be added in the 1940s, but then the Pearl Harbor attack happened, and rather than going through with the original plans to add the lights, the field's owner donated the 165 tons of steel to the war effort. The city of Chicago also had an ordinance prohibiting night games because it was believed that the lights would distract local residents. These factors contributed to the delay in installing lights at Wrigley Field.
Probably the last thing that we'd ever think that a restaurant would be named is Happy Camper. Good ratings here, 4.8 out of 720 some people. It's supposed to be really good.
Did you know Take Me Out to the Ball Game almost didn't happen? After Harry Carey worked for 25 years with the Cardinals, he had a brief one-year stint with the Oakland Athletics in 1970 before moving to Chicago, where he broadcast for the Chicago White Sox for 11 seasons, and then for the Chicago Cubs from 1982 until 1997. Carey broadcast more than 8,300 baseball games in his 53-year career. Radio producer and broadcaster Jay Scott asked Harry Carey to sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, and he initially declined. However, Scott turned the mic on in the announcer's booth without informing Carey, and the rest is history. One of the most notable moments in sports history is when Babe Ruth pointed to the center field to show where he planned to hit the ball during the 1932 World Series. That happened at Wrigley Field. Wrigley Field has been around since 1914, and it's the second oldest ballpark in the United States, second only to Boston's Fenway Park since 1912.
Win or lose, it should be worth the fight. Heaven or hell, oh, you better not mess up. Been through enough fire, I've heard all your lies. But this time around, I'm gonna give it all up, give it all up, give it all up, give it all up, give it all up. I'm gonna give it all up, give it all up, give it all up, give it all up, give it all up. I'm gonna give it all up, 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 give it all up.
That's two. Thank you.
Thank you.
Life's too short to get it all right. First time around, you better not mess up. I want it all again. I want a second chance. 'Cause this time around,
Leading off, second baseman number 1, Nick Madrigal. Hitting second is shortstop number 7, Dansby Swanson.
wondered all your life what you did